The Bible tells us in Exodus 15, it talks about Pharaoh's chariots and his host hath he cast into the sea.
From Sunday school lessons to Hollywood blockbusters, the parting of the Red Sea has become one of the most retold miracles in human history. But behind the faith lies a nagging question. Did it really happen? Take a deep breath. This next story is wild. Wild because a group of modern salvage divers recently dove into the Red Sea, not in search of treasure, but to chase a mystery that's nearly half a century old.
This shows a chariot wheel. There's approximately 20,000. We've collected a couple of horses' hoofs.
Pharaoh's lost wheel has been found, and it's not good. Why is this not good? Join us in this video as we explore the details of what they found in the Red Sea. What salvage divers just found in the Red Sea? Pharaoh's chariot wheel. The discovery is staggering. Using state-of-the-art underwater cameras and sonar, seasoned salvage divers returned to the very coordinates Ron Wyatt marked more than 40 years ago, where he claimed to have spotted Egyptian chariot wheels on the floor of the Red Sea. With metal detectors scanning the seabed, they may have just brought to light one of the most extraordinary archaeological finds of the century. Divers reported finding strange metal objects hidden beneath coral-covered hubs. At first, many dismissed these claims as wild imagination. But the deeper the divers went, the more undeniable the evidence became. Beneath the waves, eerie shapes began to emerge, symmetrical structures with sharp, distinct edges, almost like the wheels of an ancient chariot frozen in time. The closer they looked, the clearer the outlines became. At least 3 wheel-like formations stood out, encrusted with coral, but still holding their form after centuries underwater. Their cameras captured every detail. One wheel in particular glimmered faintly with a gold-like sheen beneath the coral. It was weathered, yes, but strangely preserved, enough to send chills down the divers' spines. This wasn't just another relic lost at sea. It looked like something that could challenge everything archaeology had accepted up to that point. As they pressed on, more fragments appeared, pieces of metal, bone shards that looked human and horse-like, and other remains scattered along the seabed. Each discovery seemed to echo the controversial claims of Ron Wyatt, the man whose theories had long been ridiculed. "This is not good," one diver whispered. For believers, the sight was breathtaking, possibly the remnants of Pharaoh's drowned army from the biblical Exodus. For skeptics, it was deeply unsettling. What if the world had been wrong all along? What if these weren't just random wrecks, but physical proof of a story long thought to be only myth? If true, this wasn't just a discovery. It was a revelation that could rewrite history itself. At first, the divers believed they were simply retracing Ron Wyatt's old trail. But then, something surfaced that changed everything. Drone footage revealed the first unsettling clue: a half-buried horse skull tangled in seagrass, lying awkwardly on the ocean floor. When it was brought up for testing, DNA results delivered a shocking revelation. It matched an ancient Egyptian breed once used to pull royal chariots. That alone was staggering, but the real horror was still to come. Moments later, a diver's strained voice crackled through the radio. "This is not good." The crew assumed he meant equipment trouble, until the live feed from his helmet cam appeared on their monitors. What they saw froze them in place. Human remains. Not a few scattered bones, but hundreds. Skulls, ribs, and spines lay entangled with coral-covered spears and the splintered remains of wooden frames. And the arrangement was anything but random. These weren't the casualties of a shipwreck. They were clusters of people, seemingly caught mid-flight, as if death had swept over them all at once. The dive no longer felt like an expedition. It felt like descending into a mass grave. Just as Scripture had long suggested, it appeared that hundreds, perhaps thousands of Pharaoh Ramses II's soldiers had perished while pursuing Moses and the Israelites, the Red Sea sealing their fate. Yet, for all the chilling implications, the evidence remained uncertain. The skulls could not be definitively linked to Moses' time. For now, the most convincing pieces remained the fragile chariot wheels, so delicate that even the lightest touch threatened to shatter them. Centuries of saltwater corrosion, relentless tides, and the crushing weight of silt had done their damage. These weren't polished relics destined for a museum. They would never leave the sea again. What remained were fragile ghosts, collapsing under the pressure of time. Yet, in their decay, they felt more real. Metallurgists consulted remotely confirmed that some fragments matched the metallurgy of late Bronze Age Egypt. Coral and crustacean growth made cleaning impossible without destroying them. But sonar imaging revealed unmistakable outlines. Wheels with 4 and 6 spokes, the signature of Egyptian military chariots. Divers even uncovered part of an axle wedged deep in the sea floor. But the most chilling find wasn't the artifacts. It was the bones, men, horses, and shattered metal strewn in a line beneath the waves. It looked less like scattered wreckage and more like a frozen moment of catastrophe, a mass grave preserved in silence. Did you also get chills? But how did this mission begin? What motivated such level of courage and adventure? Keep watching to find out. The truth behind the expedition. The mission itself was carefully planned in secret. In late 2024, a small team of elite divers and marine technology experts gathered in Aqaba, Jordan. Their target? A forgotten stretch of the Red Sea near Nuweiba Beach, on the Egyptian side of the Gulf of Aqaba. But this wasn't your average dive. They weren't hunting for sunken ships or lost treasure. They were chasing the ghost of a claim made nearly 50 years ago by Ron Wyatt, an explorer who insisted he had found the wheels of Pharaoh Ramses III's chariots beneath the waves. The team, made up of tough marine engineers, ex-military divers, and seasoned underwater archaeologists, set out to see if Wyatt had been telling the truth all along. Some members of the team worked quietly in the open, while others chose to stay completely anonymous. Their arsenal of equipment was cutting-edge sonar imaging systems, deep-sea drones with high-resolution cameras, and submersible scanners capable of detecting even the slightest shifts in seabed sediment. But despite all the tech, the mission almost didn't happen. Funding requests sent through traditional archaeological channels were rejected outright. Government agencies and universities dismissed the idea as nonsense. One Israeli antiquities official reportedly scoffed, "There's nothing there but coral and conspiracy." To make matters worse, several governments quietly warned the divers not to explore the site, citing marine preservation laws. It became clear someone didn't want those waters disturbed. Still, the team refused to give up. A group of discreet private backers finally stepped in. These were wealthy enthusiasts of biblical archaeology, people who had followed Ron Wyatt's controversial claims for years. Some were simply curious. Others were deeply motivated by faith. Together, they funded the entire operation quietly, without publicity, and with complete discretion. Months of planning followed. Permits were quietly secured. How did the public react to this news? What made it even more chilling? Keep watching to find out. Pharaoh's Wheel controversy. how the world reacted to the news. One of the loudest voices to weigh in was Greg Gutfeld. Known for his sharp humor and skepticism of official narratives, he couldn't resist. On his primetime show, he quipped, "If these guys actually find chariot wheels in the Red Sea, I want a refund on my high school history textbook. Seriously, why is this kind of thing always left out?" That single line set off a storm of debate. Was this the start of a groundbreaking discovery, or just another dive into religious fantasy? Whatever the skeptics said, the divers were already deep beneath the waves, pushing further into the dark blue. They weren't just exploring the sea, they were pressing against the fragile boundary between legend and history. And at the heart of their mission loomed one question: what really happened during the Exodus? Some argue the crossing wasn't in the Red Sea at all, but in the shallow marshes of Egypt's Nile Delta, the so-called Sea of Reeds. Some argue the crossing took place in the Gulf of Suez. But one of the most debated and enduring theories suggests something different, that the miracle happened farther east, at a place called Nuweiba Beach in the Gulf of Aqaba. Supporters of this theory point to the geography. Nuweiba is unusually wide and flat, large enough to hold thousands of people fleeing in desperation. Even more compelling, beneath its waters lies a natural underwater land bridge, linking the Sinai Peninsula to the Arabian side. A possible escape route for the Israelites. Could this have been the path across the sea? Mainstream scholars aren't convinced. Prominent voices like Israel Finkelstein argue that the Exodus story, including the Red Sea crossing, is not literal history, but a national myth. According to this view, the tale was written centuries later during the Babylonian exile as a way for the Israelites to preserve identity and hope. The miracle, they argue, was never meant to be taken literally. It was symbolic, a story of divine protection and liberation during times of suffering. And there's the elephant in the room: the lack of hard evidence. No Hebrew campsites have ever been found. No remnants of a destroyed Egyptian army. For decades, countless expeditions have searched for proof, only to come up empty-handed. Each disappointment has deepened skepticism, prompting most academic institutions to quietly walk away from the subject altogether. Who was behind the first attempt to prove the myth right? Was he successful? Let's find out. The man behind the Pharaoh chariot's wheel claims. For many, the belief in the existence of the Pharaoh's chariot wheel traces back to one man, the explorer who first dared to claim, "I found the wheels of Pharaoh." His name is Ron Wyatt, a self-taught adventurer who captured imaginations and stirred fierce controversy. Wyatt is the figure most often invoked whenever the Red Sea crossing debate resurfaces. To his followers, he was a trailblazer. To his critics, a fraud. Either way, his story still refuses to die. He wasn't a professor. He held no archaeological license. He had no formal training in history or anthropology. For most of his life, Wyatt worked quietly as a nurse anesthetist in Tennessee, but inside him burned a conviction that the Bible wasn't just a book of faith, but a literal historical record waiting to be proven true. In the 1970s, Wyatt began stepping away from his medical career, pouring his energy into what he saw as a divine calling, uncovering the physical evidence behind the Bible's greatest miracles. He funded his own expeditions, scraping together money from friends, church groups, and small private donors. Fame wasn't his goal. To him, this was a mission from God. His early journeys were bold, even audacious. In Turkey, he claimed to have located the resting place of Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat. In Saudi Arabia, he pointed to Mount Sinai itself, insisting it still bore the blackened scorch marks of God's fire. Each claim pushed him further into the spotlight and further into controversy. To his supporters, Wyatt was a fearless truth seeker. To his critics, he was a misguided amateur chasing fantasies. But nothing would draw more global attention than his dive into the Red Sea in 1978. That year, Wyatt traveled to Nuweiba Beach on the eastern coast of the Sinai Peninsula. With only basic scuba gear and almost no formal backing, he slipped beneath the waters of the Gulf of Aqaba, driven by little more than scripture, geography, and faith. And according to Wyatt, what he discovered down there would change everything. Wyatt claimed he had seen something extraordinary beneath the waves, coral-encrusted shapes that looked like the wheels of ancient Egyptian chariots. Some, he said, had 4 spokes. Others had 6 or even 8. He also described spotting human femurs and skulls, some appearing to have been crushed by tremendous force. Perhaps his boldest claim was of a shimmering circular object glinting on the seafloor, what he believed to be a gold-plated chariot wheel. Again and again, Wyatt pointed to the underwater land bridge stretching from Nuweiba to the Arabian Peninsula, convinced this was the very path Moses had led the Israelites across. To him, the timing, geography, and shapes all aligned. This wasn't coincidence. It was divine proof, hiding in plain sight. But when it came to evidence, Wyatt's case collapsed. He never produced certified photographs. No peer-reviewed papers ever supported his claims. And despite decades of speculation, no physical artifacts were retrieved from the seafloor. Official institutions denied him access to excavation permits, and when he was allowed to present his findings, most academic journals refused to publish them. They argued his methods were crude, his tools too basic, and his interpretations built more on faith than science. Still, his story refused to die. For years, grainy photos and hand-drawn diagrams appeared in obscure Christian newsletters and low-budget documentaries. To skeptics, he was a dreamer, or worse, a fraud. But to believers, Wyatt was a modern prophet, a man chosen to confirm the Bible's most astonishing miracle. If Wyatt really saw the chariot's wheels of Pharaoh, why did he not escalate them for proof? Or was it just a fiction of his imagination? Keep watching to find out. Ron Wyatt's explanation: the chariot wheel mystery. According to Ron Wyatt, the waters of the Gulf of Aqaba guard their secrets well. Among those secrets, he claimed, were the remains of Pharaoh Ramesses II's drowned army, ancient chariot wheels and human bones, preserved for thousands of years under layers of sand, salt, and coral. Wyatt offered 4 explanations about why the artifacts were not excavated. First, coral. He said the wheels and bones were completely encrusted in hardened coral. The growth had preserved their shapes, but left them impossibly fragile. Touching them, he feared, would cause them to crumble into dust. He even documented a coral-encrusted wheel with dimensions eerily close to known Egyptian artifacts. Second, removal risks. Wyatt believed the seafloor itself had become both a coffin and a shield for the relics. Once disturbed, exposed to air, light, or human handling, the objects would collapse, leaving behind nothing but fragments and unanswered questions, visions. Third, the law. The Gulf of Aqaba falls under Egypt's strict archaeological jurisdiction. Removing any artifact without government approval isn't just frowned upon, it's a crime. Wyatt claimed this legal wall made it nearly impossible to recover or even publicly display his alleged finds without risking severe repercussions. And then came his 4th, most provocative claim. Among the coral-coated remnants, Wyatt insisted he had seen something different, something that shimmered beneath the water. It wasn't like the others. This, he said, was a golden chariot wheel. Unlike the others, This wheel wasn't covered in coral. It was smooth, gleaming, and appeared, at least in Wyatt's telling, to be plated in gold. According to his account, he handed the artifact over to Egyptian authorities for safekeeping. But here's where the story begins to unravel. There are no verified photographs, no museum listings, no official report, no display, nothing to prove the golden wheel ever existed. To skeptics, that absence isn't just suspicious, it's damning. If such a relic had truly been recovered, it would have sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. Instead, all that remains is Wyatt's word. To many scholars, his tale is nothing more than fantasy wrapped in wishful thinking. And yet, the story refuses to die. Even without proof, it taps into something deeper, a yearning to see faith confirmed, to find solid evidence where myth and history blur. That desire is why, decades later, a new generation of divers returned to the same waters Wyatt once swam. What else lies beneath the waves of the Red Sea? Should the be scared or happy? Keep watching to find out. More possible Red Sea discoveries. When the footage surfaced, social media erupted. Astonishment clashed with disbelief. Some swore this was the discovery of a lifetime. Others dismissed it as an elaborate hoax. Commentator Greg Gutfeld captured the mood, saying, "This is shocking. Either it's a stunning hoax, or the history books are about to get rewritten." Then came the takedowns. Videos began vanishing from major platforms, sparking speculation that someone, some authority, didn't want the footage spreading. Still, copies slipped through, bouncing from account to account, fueling debate. And with each disappearance, curiosity only grew stronger. The divers' discovery in the Red Sea has done more than excite the faithful or irritate the skeptics. It has cracked open a door that may never close. If Egyptian chariot wheels and human remains truly sit on the seafloor where the story of Exodus places them, then what else have we missed? What other ancient truths lie buried in dust, stone, and deep waters, waiting to be found? The question isn't just what have we found, but what else is still waiting? It's not just about boots on the ground anymore. AI has joined the search. Artificial intelligence is now scanning ancient tunnels, underwater cliffs, and forgotten tombs. These systems can pick up patterns, anomalies, and hidden structures that the human eye could never detect. We're stepping into a new age of discovery, one where history isn't only uncovered with shovels, but also with code, algorithms, and the relentless curiosity of people who believe truth never disappears. It only waits to be found. So, what does this mean for us? It means our timeline of human history might not be as fixed as we once thought. It means those ancient texts could hold more fact than myth. And it suggests that the boundary between faith and history isn't really a wall, it's more like a bridge that sank long ago, now slowly rising back into view. What do you think about this discovery? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.